got a lot to talk about on today's show, from the Broncos receiving Courtland Sutton trade calls to Jayden Daniels maybe trying to force his way out of going to the Commanders at number 2, which could open up a door for the Broncos to trade up and get the LSU quarterback. So welcome on into an at-home edition of the Broncos Breakdown. Just too much to talk about today not to get a video out. So I want to start with the Courtland Sutton news, rumors, and then we'll talk about Jayden Daniels. But first, on the Courtland Sutton front. So Jeremy Fowler earlier today tweeted out, the Broncos have received multiple trade inquiries on wide receiver Courtland Sutton per sources. The Broncos do not plan to trade Sutton, who is skipping voluntary workouts due to his contract. So let's give the background on the contract first. He's got 2 years left on his deal, just $2 million guaranteed. He's looking for more guaranteed money added to it. Now, when I saw this, it kind of comes across as an open and closed case. Denver's getting calls. They're not interested in trading him, right? They don't plan on trading him, as Jeremy Fowler pointed out. But then I think you got to think a little bit deeper than that. Like, where do you think Jeremy Fowler is getting this information from? Is he calling all the teams that are calling the Broncos to ask, are you trading for Courtland Sutton? Or did maybe the Broncos leak this to Jeremy Fowler? I know, bear with me for a second here. To try and drive up some trade interest that we've got multiple bidders. So if you're actually serious about trading for him, you're going to have to up your offer. Like last offseason, I don't think Denver is actively looking to trade Courtland Sutton, but they've already made a couple of moves this offseason. They're not going to be as competitive going into 2024 as I think they were planning on being going into 2023. Traded Jerry Jeudy, released Justin Simmons. So if they get a good offer for Courtland Sutton, I'm sure they're going to play ball with it. Now, what could a good offer look like? Jeudy got dealt for a 5th and a 6th, but it's important to factor in the contract Jeudy had. It was nearly $17 million fully guaranteed. Courtland Sutton's going to go to a team with about $13 million in base salary. That's what a team would have to pick up. Now, Denver can always eat some of that base salary to get a better draft pick in return, kind of like what they did with Von Miller back at the Rams. But I'm thinking that Courtland Sutton could probably get you somewhere around a 5th, maybe a 4th if Denver eats a good chunk of the salary, which they do have a lot of cap space available, so that could be something they look to do. And maybe the Broncos feel like, hey, Courtland Sutton, 10 touchdowns last year, his value is not going to be any higher. He's 28, turning 29 years old this upcoming season. I personally have my concerns about the way he plays the wide receiver position, if that can hold up as he gets older. He's never been a receiver that dominates by getting separation from his corner. So as he gets older and his speed inevitably kind of slows down a little bit, is he still going to be as effective? If Denver got a good offer for Courtland Sutton, I would definitely be interested in picking up an extra draft pick. And I understand that's like a tough pill to swallow because this team has already moved on from so many longtime players. But don't half-ass a rebuild is my approach to this. So let me know what you think. Would you trade Courtland Sutton, yes or no? He's been a key member of this team, of this locker room. He's dealt with a lot of BS from multiple head coaches to even more quarterbacks throughout his, a good chunk of time so far in Denver, coming up on a little half a decade-ish, 2019 to present. So I'm not looking to trade Sutton, but if a good offer came across, my imaginary desk here, I would think I would be very inclined to take him up on it. All right, now let's switch gears and talk about Jayden Daniels. So Adam Schefter yesterday, as we kind of begin our story in a chronological order, said that he's hearing buzz that Daniels does not want to go to the Commanders. Kind of like an Eli Manning situation where he didn't want to go to the Chargers, and Phillip Rivers and him got swapped, and it's like a wife swap episode playing out in real time. So could we see that happen with Jayden Daniels? Let's say that the smoke is real. And Jeremy Fowler said today on ESPN, the smoke is real, that he does not want to play for the Commanders. Now, we're still waiting to hear from Daniels' camp, and maybe these are all smoke screens and whatnot. I'm trying to figure out if it is a smoke screen, who it really benefits. But let's just say Jayden Daniels tells Washington, don't draft me. I don't want to be there. Go get Drake May. Okay, let's say the Commanders do that. they do pick Drake May. And then there's no ruffled feathers, and it's a nice clean marriage from the start. And then Jayden Daniels is available for New England at pick number 3. What if the Patriots, who for the last month or so have been told Daniels is going to be the Commanders' top guy, what if New England doesn't like Drake May? Like, for whatever reason, they don't think he's their guy. And then they become open to one of two options. Trading pick number 3 or going Marvin Harrison Jr. and just getting the best player on the board. Well, all of a sudden, now we've got an opportunity for a couple of teams to move up and get Jayden Daniels, whether that's with New England at 3 or with the Arizona Cardinals at 4. Now, teams that could move up: Minnesota Vikings, Las Vegas Raiders, and the Denver Broncos. To me, those seem like the most 3 likely candidates to try and trade up. And there's also J.J. McCarthy that could satisfy one of those 3 teams looking for a QB. So I think the best case for Denver here, if they actually want to move up and get Jayden Daniels or kind of get a consolation prize in J.J. McCarthy, is if New England stays at 3 and they go get Marvin Harrison Jr., all right? And then the 4 pick, the Arizona Cardinals, deal with either the Broncos or the Vikings. I think Minnesota's going to outbid Denver in any trade offer because the Vikings have 2 first-round picks this year. But let's just say the Cardinals think about it and they think big picture and long term here and go, would we rather have pick 11, pick 23, and next year's first from Minnesota, or Denver's 12 and Denver's next 2 first? They may think that the next 2 first from the Broncos are going to be lower than pick 23. Now, that's a pretty ballsy move for a GM to make, because let's say he does take the next 2 firsts instead of 2 firsts this year. If things don't go well in Arizona, that GM's going to get fired soon. And he won't even get to reap the rewards of a 2026 first-round pick from the Broncos because he got canned. So my suspicion is he'll take the picks now, try and get players this year that can help improve the team so that he doesn't get fired. But if he believes that he is that, rock solid in his standing with the organization and that he's not going to get fired anytime soon no matter what, then I guess there's a chance he could take up the Broncos offer instead and bet on Denver's picks always being worse or, better from his vantage point, lower than 23. And that's not a horrible bet to make, just given the way Denver has looked the last decade. But there's a guy named Sean Payton in town, and I don't know if I'd bet on Sean Payton stinking it up the next 2 years. So you can kind of weigh the pros and cons for that one. So that's one avenue, one area, one path that Denver could get Jayden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy is if they make a better offer than the Vikings and they go up to number 4 with the Cardinals, or all the way to number 3 with the New England Patriots. Or let's say Arizona makes a deal with the Vikings instead. Okay, Minnesota moves up to 4. They get Jayden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy. Let's say they may prefer McCarthy. I don't think so, but possibly. Now the Chargers at number 5. There's no way Harbaugh will trade that pick with Denver. He's just not going to let the Broncos go get Jayden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy so he can face those quarterbacks twice a year. I really believe the Chargers want to trade back, but they may love Joe Alt so much they stay put. The Giants at 6. That's where I think if all these dominoes fall, and again, you need a lot of things to happen in this, train of events to get your quarterback. It's not just one thing. The Giants at 6, I could see swapping picks with the Broncos and taking on Denver's 2025 first-round pick. They did it with the Bears, allowing Chicago to get Justin Fields, and then that got, the Giants didn't use their picks correctly, but it got them Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. So GMs always love having extra picks because they think they are God's gift to the NFL when it comes to drafting, and that they can never miss a pick and they'll always get the right players. So the more picks, the better. But those are the latest rumors on Courtland Sutton. And then Jayden Daniels, if he doesn't want to go to Washington at 2, and this is a big and, A-N-D, New England doesn't want Jayden Daniels at 3, that could open up the floodgates for teams to try and move up and get him if the Patriots were like, hey, it was Drake May or bust for us. We'd rather trade back. So, Minnesota, Denver, Las Vegas, give us your best offer. And that could be an area for Sean Payton to squeak in and outbid Minnesota and Las Vegas. All right, that will do it for us on our at-home edition of the Broncos Breakdown. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show, and make sure to subscribe, by the way, if you have not already.